You wake up. Before your feet touch the floor, before you've even opened your eyes, all the way your thumb is already moving toward the phone. This is not a personal failing. It's a pattern repeated by millions of people every morning, without a single one of them ever choosing it on purpose. In Japan, there's a quiet respect for what happens before the doing, the space that exists before a task begins. Most of us have erased that space entirely and quietly filled it with input instead. Your brain has been paying for that ever since. These 5 habits feel harmless. They are not. Here's what's actually happening inside your head every day and what the fix looks like. Habit 1. Filling the first moment of the day, the alarm goes off, and within seconds a hand reaches out into the dark, unlocks a screen, and floods the brain with headlines, messages, and other people's lives before it has even finished waking up. This is the modern default. Nobody taught you to do it. You simply absorbed it, the way you absorbed 100 other small habits nobody chose on purpose. In Japanese aesthetics, there's a concept called ma, the meaningful pause, the interval between two things, the empty space that gives everything around it its shape. A room is defined as much by what's left open as by what fills it. A piece of music is defined as much by its silences as by its notes. Your morning is no different, except most mornings now have no ma left in them at all. The common way fails because the brain, still in a slow wave, half-dream state upon waking, is uniquely vulnerable to stimulation. Flooding it immediately with input trains it to associate consciousness itself with urgency, before you've had a single unprompted thought of your own in your own voice. Here is the fix, and it costs you nothing. Leave your phone in another room overnight, or across the room at minimum, and give yourself 60 seconds, just 60, of staring at the ceiling, the window, your own hands, before reaching for anything at all. Let your first thought of the day belong to you, and not to whoever posted first. That's it. Not a whole new morning routine, just space. Try it for a week, and notice how different the rest of the morning feels once it isn't built on someone else's noise. Because once you understand what happens in that first unguarded minute, the next question becomes obvious: what happens to your brain when it never gets to finish one thing before starting another. Habit 2. Doing 5 things at once. A woman sits at her desk with 3 tabs open, a podcast playing quietly in one ear, and her phone lit up beside her keyboard. She is, by any honest definition, doing nothing well. She would tell you she's being efficient. Her brain would disagree. There's a phrase in Japanese craft tradition, ichigyo-zanmai, total absorption in a single act. Picture a tea master pouring water, or a calligrapher committing to one single stroke. Nothing else in the room, nothing else allowed into the mind at that moment. Not multitasking with intention behind it, just one thing, held completely. Multitasking fails not because you can't technically do several things you can, but because the brain doesn't actually run tasks in parallel. It switches between them, rapidly, expensively, leaving a small residue of the previous task behind each time, a phenomenon researchers call attention residue. Every switch is a tiny tax, and it's charged whether you notice it or not. Pay it 40 times an hour, and by evening you feel foggy, scattered, unable to explain what you actually accomplished because some of your attention is still sitting in 6 other places. The fix is almost embarrassingly simple. Pick one task, close everything else, and give it 15 uninterrupted minutes before you're allowed to check anything at all. Just 15 minutes, not a lifestyle overhaul, not a productivity system, just one task held in one hand, the way the tea master holds the kettle. You'll notice something within the first few tries. The work gets easier, not harder. The moment you stop asking your brain to be in 5 places at once, and the fog that usually sets in by mid-afternoon takes noticeably longer to arrive. But single focus only works if there's stillness to focus into, and stillness is the next thing we've quietly lost. Habit 3. Never letting a moment go. Silent headphones go in for the commute. A true crime episode plays over the dishes. Even the short walk to the mailbox comes with a podcast about someone else's morning routine, narrated in someone else's voice. Somewhere along the way, silence stopped feeling like a resource and started feeling like a problem to be solved. There's a word for what's missing, yutori. A kind of spaciousness, margin, breathing room, built into time itself rather than squeezed out of it wherever possible. Traditionally, it describes leaving slack in a schedule, in a room, in a life, not because slack is unproductive, but because it's where the mind actually processes what it's absorbed all day, quietly, in the background, without being asked to. Here's where it backfires. A brain-fed constant input never gets the downtime it needs to consolidate memory, solve background problems, or simply settle. This is the same mechanism behind why your best ideas seem to arrive in the shower, not at your desk, where input is finally, briefly, absent. Here's the practical version. And it doesn't require a retreat or an app. Choose one ordinary task each day: the walk, the dishes, the commute, and do it in total silence. No podcast, no music, no scrolling, no exceptions. Just the task, and whatever your mind quietly does with the quiet. It will feel strange, maybe even uncomfortable. For the first few minutes, your hand may even twitch toward your pocket out of pure habit. Let it. That discomfort is simply the noise habit wearing off, not a sign that anything is wrong with you. Most people are more used to noise than they realize until it's gone. Because once you've made room for silence, the next habit to look at is what happens the moment a task actually ends. Habit 4. Rushing straight from one thing to the next. A meeting ends. And before the screen has even fully closed, the next tab is already open, the next task already loading. No breath in between, no acknowledgement that anything just happened at all. In Japanese martial arts and tea ceremony, there's a principle called zanshin, literally, remaining mind. It's the relaxed, alert awareness held for a moment after an action is complete. The archer who doesn't drop their stance the instant the arrow leaves the bow. The host who doesn't rush guests out the door the second tea is poured. Completion, in this tradition, isn't instant, it has a tail. And that tail matters as much as the shot itself. Where this quietly fails is physiological. The brain treats each task switch like the small shock it is. Cortisol ticks up, working memory scrambles to unload one context and load another. And over a full day of zero-gap transitions, that constant low-grade jolt adds up to something closer to background static than focus. The fix takes 10 seconds, not 10 minutes, and it works whether you're at a desk or standing in your kitchen after finishing anything: an email, a call, a chore. Pause, take one full breath, and mentally say done before opening the next thing. It sounds almost too small to matter, the kind of thing you'd skip on a busy day. It isn't. That single breath is the difference between a mind that closes doors behind it as it goes and one that leaves every door open all day until the accumulated noise becomes the low, formless exhaustion you can't quite name or explain to anyone who asks. And that exhaustion tends to show up loudest in one particular place the moment you compare your day to everyone else's. Habit 5. Measuring your life against the highlight reel. The scroll starts innocently enough: a friend's vacation, a stranger's renovated kitchen, someone's morning routine filmed in soft golden light, and ends 20 minutes later with a quiet, specific ache that wasn't there before you opened the app. Nothing bad happened. And yet, something clearly did. There's a Japanese aesthetic principle, wabi-sabi, built around finding beauty in what's imperfect, incomplete, unfinished, ordinary: the chipped bowl, the visible mend, the plain room left exactly as it is. It's not a philosophy of settling, it's a quiet rejection of the idea that only the polished, the curated, the finished version of something is worth valuing at all, as if the unfinished version, the one you actually live in, doesn't count. Here's the mechanism behind it. Social comparison activates the same neural circuitry. As physical threat, the brain doesn't fully distinguish I am less than from I am in danger, which is part of why 20 minutes of scrolling can leave you feeling unsettled in a way you can't quite explain to anyone, including yourself. The fix isn't quitting the apps, though you're welcome to. It's smaller and quieter than that. Once a day, before you open any app that shows you someone else's carefully arranged life, name one unpolished, half-done, entirely ordinary thing about your own out loud, on paper, it doesn't matter which. Your actual kitchen. Your actual morning. Your actual, imperfect, unfiltered day. Let it count for something real before the comparison even gets the chance to start its usual quiet damage. Because the goal was never to eliminate every hard moment from your brain's day, it was to stop handing it 5 unnecessary ones before breakfast, on autopilot, without ever noticing. None of these 5 habits will show up on a diagnosis. No one will tell you the phone first thing morning, or the 6 open tabs, or the missing pause after a hard meeting, is the reason you feel tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. But taken together, day after day, week after week, they are quietly shaping how your mind moves through the world, scattered, reactive, never quite finished with anything, never quite here. The good news sits in the size of the fixes themselves. 60 seconds of stillness, 15 minutes of single focus, 1 silent task, 1 full breath, 1 honest sentence about your own ordinary life. Small enough to actually keep, on hard days and easy ones alike. Small enough that you could start with just one of them tomorrow morning before you reach for your phone at all.